Well, hey there, it's Catherine from CatherinePuller.com. In this video, we are going to make two weekly spreads for the Canvo Bullet Journal. Both spreads will use the quick Quads Stencil and masking techniques. Here are a couple of our journals. We have several different covers available. The insides are blank, so it's kind of an as-you-go, create whatever you need. A lot of people like to make planners and calendars and to-do lists. Some people like to journal or do trackers in here. I like to do my calendars and to-do lists. And we have this stencil. It's called Quick Quads. So when I do a weekly spread, a lot of times I like to basically divide my page into quadrants and do one day of the week in each quadrant. And so this Quick Quads stencil makes it really easy for you to create fun little boxes in the quadrants. So I'm just tracing around with my Le Pen. And then I'll use my pen to complete the boxes and close the lines. You can also use a ruler if you want them to be precise and straight. I'm foregoing that option on this one. So the next step is to make a mask. So I have a piece of computer paper here, and I'm just going to trace the quadrant or the Quick Quads box, and I'm going to use a sharp pair of scissors just to cut that box out. I'm going just slightly inside the lines here, and this will be used as a mask. So I cut out 4 of these boxes, and I'm going to use my two-way glue pen. I'm just drawing a line of glue around the perimeter of each of those layers or masks. And the two-way glue pen, when it's allowed to dry, it creates a temporary adhesive. So then I'll be able to use them and place them over the boxes like this, and it will be temporarily adhered to my bullet journal. So once my masks are all added to my layout, it's time for the stamping. So I'm using the Just Wonderful Floral stamp set, and I'm just going to peel the images off of the imaging sheet that I'm going to use. So I'm using a flower, a couple leaves, and another little flower. So I'm just adding these to my clear acrylic blocks. All of the supplies that I'm using here can be found in our online shop, so everything will be linked below. So the color palette, I'm using Rose Petals and Peppermint Scrub for my flowers, and guess what? I made a little mistake here. I used the wrong bottom layer for that fun flower, so I'm just going with it because this bullet journal is for me. It's not something that I'm making for someone else, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So I just put that original stamp back and pulled out the correct one and just kept going. So I use Rose Petals for the bottom layer and then Peppermint Scrub for the layer on top. And then I'm using some leaves, and I'm doing green tea and eucalyptus. Those are both pretty much similar colors, just different shades. So they are perfect for layering when you have stamps like this. And then I'm pulling in lemongrass, which is another, because these are all greens that have that lean more to the yellow, so they're yellow greens, so they all go perfectly well together, and they're all spa colors, which it comes from our muted color collection. So Daydream I thought would be a really nice pop here, so I'm just using that small flower, and I'm going to add some in there, and the lemongrass leaf sprigs I think just gives a really fun look here. So now I can remove the masks, and what you'll see, it basically looks like I stamped behind, or I have a piece of paper layered over those flowers. It gives a really cool dimensional look to a non-dimensional piece of paper. So now I'm just going to do the other side, and I decided to lay my inks out all on the top so you could see them. And when I'm doing stamping like this with a lot of different stamps and ink colors, if I can, I like to lay the stamp on top of the ink pad that I'm using so that I don't mix colors and get confused. And the magical moment when you remove the masks, it's so satisfying. I never get tired of it. Doesn't it look pretty? So you can use this technique with so many different images and just get so many different looks from the same technique. It's super fun to play with. So to clean the stamps, you just use a damp paper towel and just wipe them down and then return them to the imaging sheet. Super easy. And then I'm using the Daily Plan stamp set to add the days of the week. And we're all done with this really fun weekly spread. So let's use the same idea. I did the quick quads again and added the masks, and then I'm using an ink blending brush and dipping it into the Skylight ink pad. And I'm just sponging ink over the top. I'm concentrating in that upper left-hand corner and kind of going light as I go out. I'm going to use a little bit of purple tape to kind of tack this stencil down so that it doesn't move. And this is called the Swoop Stencil. It's great for card making and scrapbooking and bullet journaling. So you get a really fun look. I'm doing Daydream over the top, and it looks weird now, but look, when you remove those masks, it looks gorgeous. It's so fun. So I'm gonna clean up the stencil a little bit. I'm just using a damp paper towel and wiping it down. Now when I'm finished my project completely, I will take this to the sink and I will clean it thoroughly. But in the meantime, I'm using the greens. So if I still had a tiny bit of blue left over on that stencil, I'm okay with that because the actual color of the ink that I'm gonna lay down here isn't really that important. I'm just getting shading and coloring. So I'm using Lemongrass, and I'm doing the same exact thing I did with Skylight. And then I'm gonna add the stencil over the top and then stencil on green tea ink. So when I pull the stencil back, it's another magical moment. Pull those masks off, and I can't wait to get started on this weekly setup. So I had a lot of fun in this video. I hope you learned something and you're inspired to go do some fun Canvo bullet journaling as well and decorate the pages of your journal with stamps and stencils. If you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again soon.